Hey, we're on. Sweet.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. So, we never know exactly.
We're never really sure when
we're live, so we're always trying to be a little careful when we get started. Welcome back to the Val and Roy show. And, so today we wanted to talk about, thanks for joining us. I know you come every week. We were here last week, right? So, but today, nobody ever comes every week.
But that's nice that you think
maybe
that.
they do.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a couple people maybe.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about a brand new kiln that we got. We just got in. I mean, just like about a week or so ago. It's a hot shot kiln, which is made from by this company in Wisconsin. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Does it probably says
I thought it said on the back, but I looked at it. But anyways, it's a great, really nice kiln. They call them an oven, which I've been kind of making fun of a little bit, but that's okay. We're calling it a kiln. And it's got like a lot of really nice features to it that I think everyone's going to really enjoy.
Yeah, I think there's a few that are really interesting. So
yeah, one of the it's a fiber kiln, so I'm going to open it up here in just a second so you can take a look at it. It is a inside chamber 16 square, so that's really pretty nice. It's currently not on because it has a fan that cools it while it's running, which is another one of the really great features to it. And so it makes a little bit of noise, the fan does, so we're just going to wait to turn it on. It is, I mean, the manufacturer says that you really only need about 3 inches of clearance for the back of the kiln where the fan is at, so the fan has someplace to blow the air. But otherwise, they call it a cool touch technology, I think is how they refer to it.
I'm going to come around and show the fan really quick.
what is the recommendation for the brick kilns and the things?
Yeah, brick kilns, normally the recommendation, depending on the size of the kiln, is at least 12 inches to 18 inches from a flammable surface. So, like a traditional brick kiln, you need a little more space for that.
So this makes it.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, again, I know 3 inches it says from the back is all you really need to leave space. And I can tell you that, we've run this a couple times, and the cool touch technology is actually, I mean, you can literally touch the side of this kiln while it's running. The top is warm, and then I always have to be careful because, I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've been doing this for a few years, and we think we probably burned all the nerves out of our fingers. So a lot of times things might not feel that. I mean, when I touch it, it doesn't really feel that hot to me at all, the top, but
But it does warm up.
It does warm up, yeah.
Actually, I had somebody that was in a class of mine just recently that has ceramic studio, and they also do glass firing. And we talked about the fact that you should never really put anything on top of the kiln, whether it's running or not, because a lot of the times we ramp up temperature so slowly that it's probably fine for 4 or 5 hours, but then once it starts reaching a hot temperature, the top starts to get hot and things could, we've had a couple of situations.
We've had a couple here.
So anyway, so she said, the rule in her studio is no one puts anything on top of the kiln. And I think that's kind of a good rule. Even though this one really is not supposed to get real hot, it's going to get a little warm.
Yeah, I won't put anything on top of it.
No, but the sides, those other kilns, if anybody's familiar with the brick kilns and even the other fiber kiln gets pretty hot.
Yeah, they get hot.
So it's nice. It's nice to have something like this that you don't have to worry about melting some to it.
The other nice thing about this kiln is it's a clamshell, so the whole body of the kiln opens up, and we're going to show you that, I think, in just a moment, right? So.
Yep.
Well, it's one of their nice features.
Well, you were going to talk about the tap.
The controller, yeah.
The controller's pretty nice, which I wasn't a fan. Remember?
Yeah, so this is a tap controller. So not only is it a tap controller, but it's their newest version of the tap, which is called the Tap 2 controller. And so, which is nice. I've played around with it a little bit. The interface is even, so if you're familiar with the tap controller, the interface on this one is even a little easier than the last one, which is nice. It also has a lot of features that you can, they have an app that you can download, and there's a lot of features you can do with the app. So I'm not going to go over all those, but if you really want to look into those, you can.
But it really appeals to some people because it's like if you're at the mall, you can look at the app and you can tell what temperature your kiln's at, where it is in the cycle. You can start it and stop it from the app, and right?
Well, that is one of the features with the Tap 2, but it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be a subscription with the app. So there's a lot of things that if you download the app, that it's not going to cost you anything, right? So there's a lot of nice features that you can do with it, but they have some others more advanced features that involves buying a subscription, a monthly subscription. Which again, I don't really know the pricing on that, but didn't it sound all right? I mean,
Yeah, if you want those extra features, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's neat. So I'm going to kind of come around a little bit just to show you how this opens up. So here's the other thing, if you can see how I'm doing it, right? I mean, I'm not like big lumberjack looking person, but you see, I just open it up with one hand because it has these
nice little
pistons or hydraulics. I'm not sure technically what they call them, but
I was going to call it hydraulic, but I have no idea. That's
right
right or
not technically what it is either, but that's what they are. Anyway, so that helps with the weight of
it's like an easy open.
Oh my gosh, and closing too the same way. So easy open, easy close. So you can see this nice size inside the kiln. 16 inches is from here to here. Now it does come with a shelf, and then so the shelf is right in front of Val there. We got kind of covered with some things.
How big is it?
It's 15 inches square. The shelf is. And it's a ceramic shell. So this again is a fiber kiln, which if you guys can, a couple nice features about fiber kilns. One is that it's a little lighter in weight. So that one of the things about this kiln is, it's got a lot of metal to it. But if it had brick and metal, this thing would be really heavy. So it's not horribly heavy. And the fiber also will heat up a little faster and cools down a little faster if that's important to you. If that's something you're looking for. I know Val and I, we debate this a lot of times, and with the fiber kilns they certainly have the capability of heating up a little faster. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what you want to do, but you could.
Depends on what you got in
really
there.
to do.
If you want to go fast, you could.
Yeah, and then if you can come around, Caleb, too, look at the heating elements. This is the other really nice thing, too, about this particular kiln, is you can see the heating elements are in quartz tubes. So, the metal is going to, the heating elements, if you're familiar with kilns, right, they expand and contract as they heat up and cool down. And sometimes that expansion and contraction will cause, like, in brick kilns, a little brick dust to get on your piece. Or here with fiber kilns, sometimes you run the risk of maybe a fiber getting onto the surface of your glass. But here, since the heating elements are in those quartz tubes, you're not going to get anything falling from the lid potentially onto your surface of your glass as you're working. So that's also a pretty nice little feature.
Do you want to show the bottom coming out?
I do want to show the bottom coming out. So, yeah,
they're not together.
Oh gosh, so
Hey, you did that.
nice little movie trap. I
did that.
I thought they were glued or something.
No,
So.
They used to be.
They used to be, but
Yeah, so this whole thing, there's another nice feature about this, right? This whole thing comes out. So the whole bottom just comes out. It is solid, you can see on the bottom, right? So it's all metal. You could take that out. One of the reasons why they did this was because the fiber, let's say, something horribly happens and you end up, messing up your fiber really badly. You could just buy a new piece of fiber and replace it, because just the fiber come out, since the outside doesn't get super hot, it's not going to start peeling the paint off or discoloring it even. So I'm going to turn it on so you guys can see or listen to it and see it, right? So again, if you're not familiar, this is the Tap 2 controller. So it always takes a couple of minutes for the controller to get to a point where you can start using it. It runs through some diagnostics when you first turn them on. And then eventually we'll get to a spot where we can do something with it. Nice. So this one, it does come preloaded with about 16 firing schedules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it comes with 8 programs for 90 COE and 8 programs for 96 COE. And one of the really nice things that we think, anyways, is that the programs that are on this particular kiln are the programs that Val and I use in our classes. So if you've had a class with Val or with me, and you've seen the firing schedules that we talk about or we use, that's what's in this particular kiln. So it's kind of easy for us to endorse that part of it, because these are the firing schedules that we use every day. And like I said, I teach in all of our classes. So we are going to go over this. Oh, just real quick, it just says, don't use this as a safety device, right? So you should always be around your kiln when it's running. That's probably one of the most standard things. So it is a touch screen, but it's not really like a touch screen like our phones. Our phones use the warmth of your finger right as you're touching it, and that's how they work. This one actually is a pressure, so you have to like tap it a little bit. So a stylus actually works even better, which I don't have a stylus. Probably there's one somewhere in this room, but that's okay. I a lot of times just use my fingernail and kind of tap that way. I find that a little bit more effective than using my finger or the eraser of a pencil. That works really pretty nice too. But that gives us a couple of options. I know the start button always makes people concerned because they think that they're starting the kiln, but really it's just going to take us to the programs. And then you can see all of them are here, alphabetical. So we have casting for 90 or 96. Were we going to run through them all, right? A contour fuse, which Val and I both really like that. And a drape. And we'll show you some samples of all these just so you guys can have an idea of what it does. Fire polish. A tack fuse, and I must have skipped something. Was that everything?
Yeah. But so the beauty of this is, though, that, so you have those pre-programs in there. Well, that's fine. If you're somebody who actually has done a little studying on this type of thing, and you actually do have some of your own firing schedules, I mean, we just always put ours in. I mean, I don't, even though we know those firing schedules, I would not, I don't know, I always make, even in my class it seems kind of funny because I will make the smallest little change. I mean, I sometimes will think for a good minute or two just to decide whether I want to do 14 minutes or 13. I mean, it's really nuts, kind of sometimes. I spend way too much time, but, I feel real strongly about, because there's always something different, in classes people always make different things, and so it's not like we're running through the same stuff every single time. So the tap is a nice way to be able to hang on to your schedules. It asks you for you to name it, and right, and, and I don't know how many spots you have, but you have a lot in there so you can do that if you want to make your own firing schedules and keep it for your own full views or your own. I mean, just because there's pre-programs in there, it's not like those are the only things you can use.
Yeah,
like I said, we don't hardly ever use them.
Yeah, Val and I were little. When Delphi first started offering kilns that had programs already in them. We were a little hesitant because as Val's pointing out, I mean, the firing schedule isn't going to work for everything you're trying to do, right? If you're doing a full fuse, for example, it's not going to work for every full fuse you're ever going to do. But it's a good starting point, anyways. Mm-hmm. And then the other nice thing about these programs in here is you can alter the program that's in here. So, like, for example, right here's a full fuse, and let's say I want to, as Val was talking about, sometimes we talk about hold time, so there's a button here that allows me to edit it. And so just for the fun of it, we're going to 14:45 for 10 minutes, but let's say you wanted to go for 13 minutes, right? Because you like that look better for what you're doing. And you can just come in and change that to 13, and it will stay in there, and always remember that that's the firing schedule that you like. So I think not only is there programs in there, but you can customize those programs. I'm not going to do anything here because I don't want to change anything.
No.
But and as Val mentioned before, you can add new programs, and you can add as many programs as you want to add.
And like I said, the cool thing is kind of that you can name it anything. So you could say, full fuse, black and white dish, or something.
Sure.
Couldn't you? I mean, you could do that. So you
Tree project.
Or Val's best bubble squeeze.
Yeah.
Perfect firing schedule.
Michaela's asking how much space is needed behind the kiln when you open it.
Oh, that's a great question, Michaela. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Let's find out.
So let's find out. So here it's sitting. This is where it's actually it can't tip back any further than this. So I have a tape measure, and we can probably visualize it a little bit, right? So if we can see about how far out it is. Oh, it's probably 8 inches to this point here, right where this is at. So you obviously want to leave a little space, right? So you have something to open up. But
so at least 10 inches.
I would say 10 inches. Yeah, I think you would have. Yeah, you'd be totally fine with 10 inches easily.
Good question.
Yeah, great question. But the other thing too is so we were talking about this cool touch technology and how it doesn't need to be like 12 or 18 inches away. But so if you're limited by space, I mean, to me this seems like a great kiln just because you don't have to allow so much space around the kiln. And it's a tabletop version is how they refer to it, right? It doesn't really come with any legs, but you could set this on cinder blocks, get it up off the floor if you wanted to. I'm going to close it if that's all right.
Yep.
Unless you have questions about I think I'm going to shut it off. If you have questions about the firing schedule, feel free to, message us, right? You can send us a message. That's below, or you can Instagram, or you can, I can't see the note.
Or
you can email us at Facebook.
We haven't done that enough to remember.
Or you can email us at facebook@delphiglass.com. That's the other way of reaching out to us. We'd be happy to help out. But we wanted to show you, we have some samples of some stuff on the table, just in case, if you're not super familiar with, maybe you're new to fusing and not so sure what everything going on, but...
well, the program's in there,
yeah,
so we can tell you. So it's a full fuse, right? It's a slump. It's the tack fuse, the contour fuse, a casting. So we'll show you in a minute what that is if you don't know. A drape, which we can show you. That's usually, draping is usually over a mold, not in a mold. And so this was a flat piece, and then the sides come down. So that's a drape. It's over the mold. How many was that?
That was...
I think I've done everything but that one.
But the frit balls.
Yes, that was good. I did. I did. So
nice.
Yeah, frit balls. I don't know. It sounds kind of funny, doesn't it?
Well, we say nuggets too. I think
but
it's
it's, you know, but it's really tells you what they are when you say frit balls. So these are just some bigger chunks of glass that. So the firing schedule is just going to ramp the kiln up with all these little pieces. And then take it to a full fuse temperature, which will ball all these little pieces up. So when we say frit, this coarse frit actually, you know, you would just spread it out on your shelf. And when those little guys ball up, then they are just basically pretty tiny little balls. But you know,
much like you used here.
Yeah, used for decorative stuff.
Here in the...
Yeah, we brought this because we were trying to kind of collect a few of the things that would represent the different firing temperature schedules. This one seems to represent a lot of them.
Yeah, I think there's almost everything in there. A tack fuse, contour fuse.
A full fuse on that.
Full fuse on the back.
Fuse, yeah.
So this piece was done in multiple firings, starting from the very hottest part of it, which is these pieces of glass that are full fuse flat, all the way up to leaving a lot of the texture behind. So I don't know, it's probably 3 firings maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
We did that, didn't we?
No, this one.
Oh.
No, this one was done by a guest instructor that we had here.
We got one somewhere.
Yeah, ours is up there.
That's ours, but we did one like this too, somewhere.
With a tree, oak tree.
Because I pulled the branches. I remember pulling the branches in the torch.
Michaela is asking the weight of this kiln and the dimensions. So the inside of the dimensions are 16 inches square by 6 inches deep. So that's your interior. I know I've got the weight on the website, so I can get you that once we're done here. It's not memorized quite yet.
Yeah, I think I know just because I sometimes help out in the shipping area.
I think it's like 90.
Yeah, under the shipping they say it's 100 pounds.
Okay.
I think that's what they call dim weight, which refers to the size also. So it doesn't actually weigh 100 pounds. I picked this one up. I think it's probably, the kiln by itself, I think it's about 70 pounds maybe.
We can get the official number and message you back.
Myself, so I was,
Well, okay.
I know, so there you go. It's not like I'm bragging or anything.
Right.
That's my workout for the day. I just pick up kilns around here. So it is like 23 inches wide. 23 inches wide. This way, the long part, because of the handle, because it does come with a handle on it. The handle is attached, and it has that little extra in the back. You know how the lid opens up, but that puts it at 29 inches. So 29 by 23. Oh, and how tall it is? It'll probably be a good thing too, right? It's almost 15 inches high. So, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Good
So, and these are pretty readily, we have these.
They're in stock now.
Yeah. So, not that, but we've had, since the pandemic, which everybody seems to say daily and for some reason or another, but, people did, like, everybody everywhere got behind in production and all that stuff. And so there were some people waiting on kilns for literally months and upon months. And so, it seems like there is a need for some that are, and these are going to be probably pretty readily available. I don't think there's going to be a really long wait time on them. So, and like I said, it's a great size. Yeah, what about where do you plug it in? Not a 220, right?
Yeah. Good point. Val.
Thank
yeah.
you.
So here's the other thing too is that
Thank
this
you.
just runs on regular household current, right? So it's 120 volts, right? So some people say 110, but whatever, 110, 120. It is. It needs to be on a 15 amp circuit, which again is nothing crazy. So.
Not horrible to
Yeah.
to get it switched.
Nope.
But it's important that you
Yeah,
make
15
sure.
amps is pretty standard, right? So again,
Yeah.
in your house, in fact, you might even have a 20 amp, which is even better. But it runs on a 15 amp.
So to get this size, without having to put in a big 220 line is really exceptional. I mean,
Yes.
And it ships standard ground too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ship standard ground.
yeah.
That's huge.
So anyway,
Anyways.
we were excited about it. We think
Yeah,
it's
we were really excited
it's a
about it
big
when we
deal,
saw
and
them come
it's
in,
it's and it's not. We don't enjoy telling people, okay, well, hopefully your kiln will be ready in 6 or 8 months. I mean, that's no fun. So anyway, fills the void of running out of the kilns, I think. So do you want to see any of this? I mean, this is just. I mean, the firing schedules, like I said.
Let me just point them out real quick.
Okay.
For those of you that might not know, like what a contour fuse is or a tack fuse. Or
Yeah, we'll just say this is our little example of we use this in class. So this is a full fuse. So a full fuse to us is smooth, no raised texture at all. So you have a firing schedule for that in your in this kiln in the pre-programs. This is then put on a mold, and then slumping is this. So you also have a temperature and a firing schedule for a slumping mold. We basically were talking, and like Roy said, these firing schedules that are pre-programmed are just not for every single thing you're ever going to do. But I think if you think of them in terms of standard thickness pieces, which is quarter of an inch, and 12 inches or smaller, I think all our programs would be good to go for that. So, so this would be then this one we would call a tack fuse. So tack fuse basically just means the surface is getting just hot enough to tack together. So it hasn't really changed or reduced the height of the glass melting. It's just tacked on here, stuck on here. Here's the same situation, which I would call that. Would you call that a contour?
I call that a contour fuse.
Yeah, like I say, I sort of struggle with that word.
It was high 1300s. It was 1385.
Yeah. Okay. But and so once again, you learn to know what look you want. You learn to back up on the temperature. Right over there. Okay, so then this was the drape, and this one, like I said, this one was flat. I could have got the other example, but picture this all just flat square, and then we just straddle it on top of here, and then the draping schedule will let it just sort of settle down around the mold. So Roy's getting it.
Yeah, I grabbed it. So.
See, I know it's gonna. Okay, thanks. So that's draping, right? And then there's a 1-layer drape too, which I kind of thought was kind of fun to show because sometimes people have some glass they don't really want to melt anything else. So, and then castings is like these molds where we're not putting a piece of glass in there, we're putting many chunks of glass, and then we're taking it to a full fuse so that it will, then all the glass will melt together. So it's a little bit of a different situation. So you're basically starting with a mold full of little pieces, but you're ending up with a very large chunk of glass. And so we have a firing schedule for that.
Yep. Yeah, so it's going to a full fuse temperature, right? And sometimes we hold them a little longer to make sure everything fuses.
This is one of my little favorite casting boxes. Isn't it cute? I love it.
It's a perfect little ring box.
Is it? I keep my kosher salt in it at home.
Oh, do ya?
Yeah, by the stove. I think it's great. And then there's all kinds of little jewelry things, these little rings, but those are castings. So you have a firing schedule for that. So I didn't really bring a fire polish. I didn't grab a fire polish. So fire polishing is just a little bit lower temperature than the full fuse. So if you had to do some cold working, that scratched up the surface, and now you have this cloudy scratched edge that you can put your piece back in and not have to go all the way to a full fuse.
I think we've got the bowl over at the end of the table with some water in it that shows a cold worked edge.
It's a cold worked edge, but it's not fire polish. That's my red, white, and blue. It's not there.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's not. Oh, did you want to see it anyways? With the,
She was talking about the cold work.
Just if they don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah. I gotta dump the water.
Yeah, the water was for the photo fusing we did the other day. Didn't quite dump it.
I did.
No, I
Oh,
said
you
we
did.
didn't quite.
Yeah, so if you see the edge, you'll notice that in this situation, so we use a flat lap grinder to grind this edge, and it's frosted looking. And then so as Val's mentioning, right, the firing schedule would be to get that shiny. Of course, it's too late to fire polish it now because you've already slumped it, right? So
Fire polish is a hotter temperature than the slumping temperature, so it's not something you can really do successfully. Too successfully, you can try it, but you might
Putting
lose.
it back in the mold.
Yeah, you might lose a little.
you might get away with it.
Yeah, you might lose a little definition in your shape, though. But anyway, so I mean, I think that we covered like right all the and the fruit balls I already showed you. So so I think it's a nice little selection of firing schedules. I mean,
Yeah, we tried to
in
put
terms of what most people do.
We try to put a nice little variety of different firing schedules in there, and then as you know, Val, I mentioned before too, like you can put in your own programs, and you can literally put in hundreds or thousands of programs, and I mean, it's got the room for it. So there's no like limit to how many of your own personal programs you put in there.
So,
But otherwise, that's it. So everyone should buy one. So I don't know how many people are watching us at the moment, but hopefully we have enough kilns for you. So
yeah, get them while we got them.
but if not, we'll get more. So well, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
And we don't know when we're going to be back. Probably a couple weeks. And we have no idea what the topic's going to be. But if you have an idea, feel free to reach out to us. Right? Again, you can email us at Facebook at delphiglass.com. You can always message us on Instagram or Facebook.
That is crazy.
And
It's like you're pretending like you're not looking, but you know.
Am I not reading it?
Yes.
I got it all memorized. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in a little while.
See you next time.